if a compromise can potentially set you up for trauma in a relationship, it's not a compromise at that point, it's abuse. So anyone who's sex repulsed, never, ever, ever let anyone pressure you into having sex with someone just to keep them around. If that person can't be with you without having sex with you and you're sex repulsed, then you're just not compatible. I'd rather keep it real with you. Happy Sunday, everybody. It's me, Mina, back with another video. I have the camera angled this way because I want to show you this cute shirt I got. It's a Gemini shirt. It's supposed to be oversized, but I'm an oversized woman, so oversized shirts don't look right on me, unfortunately. And you know that sometimes these clothes, they just only go up to a certain size. But yeah, I just want to show you this cute shirt that I'm wearing. I also want to say hi to Morticia. Morticia? No, Sadie, I'm calling your sister. I wanted Morticia to look up. Morticia, look up. Not interested. Not interested at all. Man. Ow. Oh, now you want to come up here. Hello, Sadie. Hello. You gonna sit down? Sit down so I can do my thing? Ma'am. 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 Okay, well, at least I'm getting some cuddles from the girls. Just keep it real with y'all. Not feeling cute today. And even though this shirt doesn't look good on me and it looks all bunched up, it actually is comfortable. So I got on a comfortable shirt, I got on comfortable pants, I got on some comfortable socks. And I'm just going to talk about, well, next video. So if you want to hear about that, you want to subscribe. Next video, I'm going to share the story of my friend who is married, who is an asexual woman who is married to an allosexual man. I know that that's a lot of comments that people have left on in my questions in the social media platforms. And I know that a lot of people want to know, how do you make those relationships work? We will talk about that in the next video when I feel cuter. But today I'm going to talk about the infighting in the community and how quickly it can turn to nonsense. Like the fact that I asked the question saying, hey guys, I'm doing asexual Q&A videos. You guys drop your comments of questions that you have for other asexual people, right? How does that turn into a fight? Let's find out. So actually this actually popped off by somebody who, it started in social media, and then they ended up finding my video and commenting on the video, so they know who they are, as I'm going to read through what they said, and I'm going to read through the comments that they got and just talk about like the ridiculousness of it all. So I hope you guys enjoy. Again, painting is crooked, not the camera. So this person said, my number one question I have would be, how do asexuals end up in relationships or even married to an allosexual? The logistics confuse me. How does that happen? What's the secret? Especially since intimacy gives most of us anxiety. So that a lot of questions were just like, if you're ace, how do you date an allosexual? But this one was a little bit more detailed, saying like, I don't understand. So the first thing that I thought when I read this was, like I've said in other videos, there are different definitions of asexuality. I don't agree with all those different definitions, but there's a bunch of different definitions, so it means different things to different people. So some people, when they think of asexual, they're thinking of strictly sex repulsed or just never want to have sex, which is totally valid way to think about it. Makes sense if you look at like the definition and everything. And so when you think of an asexual person, get your booty off my phone. When you think of an asexual person being in a relationship with an allosexual person, that doesn't really make sense. It doesn't like click in your brain if your definition of an ace person is someone who does not like sex, does not have sex, doesn't experience sexual attraction. And then an allosexual person is anyone who does experience sexual attraction, who does like to have sex. It just seems like it would be incompatible, right? And it's possible. It like makes a lot of sense to me. I understand this person's thinking and where they were coming from. Then they said, especially when intimacy gives most of us anxiety, Also understood where they were coming from. There, we live in a hypersexual society where a lot of times, and you even see this in asexual like memes and stuff, we fight back against the idea that all forms of intimacy have to be sexual or have to lead to sex. So there are people who are like, oh, I like it when cuddling leads to sex, or I like it when I ask for a back rub and then they grab my boobs, or some weird like that. And there are ace people who are like, maybe I just needed a back rub, or maybe I just wanted to cuddle. I didn't want to actually do anything sexual. I just wanted us to spend some time together. I know, especially for me, when I was in a state of like trying to date or like trying to be in a relationship, that was something that did give me a lot of anxiety. And I think it's common more among AFAB people. But I definitely can see where asexual people could struggle with that as well, because people may be expecting them to want to initiate sexual intimacy and then they don't want to. But I do see this anxiety a lot with aces who are like, they want to spend quality time with a person. They want to be alone together. They want to watch a movie together and cuddle on the couch. They want to Netflix and actually chill, not anything else, or they want to Netflix and chilly. If you remember that meme where like, hey, it's just chilly, like put your clothes back on, they just want to spend time with you and get to know you. And, maybe there's a sensual component, maybe there's physical touch involved, maybe it's not. But the problem you run into is that in our hypersexual society, you trying to be with an allosexual person, hell, some aces even, or some people who claim to be aces, you run the risk of that person thinking that you two being alone equals we're going to have sex, or this is going to become sexual. And maybe you don't want that. So in my experience, I struggled with any time I was alone with a dude, and not even alone. There could be other people around, and dudes would be like, yeah, let me fill you up, or, sit in my lap and like all of this weird shit. Or they want to kiss you and kiss your neck. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, we're friends. Are we friends? I don't know what's happening right now. But just wanting to get really freaky. Like, I'm like, bro, me and you sitting on the same couch don't mean shit. Me and you sitting on the same couch means we sitting on the same couch. It don't mean nothing weird or sexual is about to go down. But they have a different idea of that. And so when this person said that, that's just literally what I took it as. I was like, I see what you're coming from. I can see where the idea of intimacy for an ace and intimacy for an allo would be different. And us trying to engage in intimacy with an allosexual could give you a lot of anxiety because you don't know how far that person wants to go. So I saw it as that. I was like, it's a completely innocent, question. I literally lumped it in with the other questions where people were asking me about aces having relationships with allos. Literally. Didn't think nothing of it. But somebody else did. Oh, shit. This goes long. Okay. So someone comes in and they're saying, I think your last assumption is problematic. Some aces are comfortable with intimacy, and some are willing to make compromises regarding intimacy for someone they love. First of all, I don't know if I want to read this whole thing or if I want to like interject. I have a problem. One, I have a problem with this person having a problem with the other person. But two, I have a problem with them saying, because the way that they're using intimacy, it still kind of sounds like they're saying sex, where they're saying they're comfortable with it and some are willing to make compromises for someone that they love. That makes me a bit uncomfortable. I used to see. The ace community used to be a lot of people asking questions about like how to make relationships work and stuff. Now it's kind of more of somebody being like, I only want to have sex sometimes. Am I ace? And then everybody being like, yeah, more aces. And I'm like, wait, slow down. What? But in the past, there would be questions like this of how does someone navigate having a sexual relationship when they're ace? Now, if you are sex positive or sex indifferent, you can make compromises regarding sex. You may not even need to make a compromise regarding sex. You may just enjoy it. But if you're sex repulsed, and this is a thing that triggers me and other sex repulsed aces, is that you really can't compromise on this. Like, sex is not something that I'm willing to compromise on for the person that I love because of the fact that I am repulsed by the act of it. And however you define sex, like, I don't want to do that. And I think that that should be okay versus, well, you're willing to compromise for the person you love. You're willing to do this, or do you want to do this type of sexual activity versus that type of sexual activity? Or maybe y'all can do this and there'll be no penetration, whatever. I don't want to do any of it. Any of it. It's gross to me. Y'all can have it if you want to. I support consensual adults doing what they want to do. But for me, it's gross, and I don't want to be in a relationship where I feel like I have to make a compromise in order to have a relationship. And there's something else that I noticed is that sex positive aces, especially now that there are more people identifying as demi and gray sexual, they complained a lot when they were coming into the community of sex repulsed aces. They complained a lot about, I guess they had this idea that the community was just like, it was too much focused on sex repulsed aces. Like sex repulsed aces were overrepresented, which I did not find true at all. And like I said, I'm in a lot of groups. The groups where there are the kink groups for asexual people and the groups of sex positive aces have way more members than the groups where there's like one or two groups maybe that were focused on sex repulsed aces, and there's barely nobody in there. And then the groups that are for all aces is mostly demisexual, gray sexual people now. Now we can argue about whether or not those people belong in the ace community or not. That's not what this video is about. But the groups have been, the loudest people in these groups have been sex positive aces. And that's why sex repulsed aces feel left out and isolated a lot, because a lot of the posts are like, I have no problem having sex with my allosexual partner. Or they'll say things like, I love sex, so me and my partner have no issues. Okay, well, sex repulsed aces want support because they do not want to have sex and they do not want to compromise. Because if you are going to have sex with somebody you don't want to have sex with, that's putting you in a real bad situation. And I feel like we don't get no support in these groups. Like when I see questions about people who are genuinely worried about the pressure of having sex in a relationship, you see all of the people who are like, I love sex, I'm ace and I love sex and da 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 da. We wasn't asking you. You straight. And then the issue with that too is then you have a lot of allosexual people who are out here dating or get in relationships with asexual people who are sex positive or demi or whatever, and they're looking like, well, asexual people can say whatever they want, but they're going to have sex with me. Like that could easily be the assumption, because sex repulsed aces have a hard time getting into relationships and maintaining relationships with allosexuals. So miss me with the bullshit that the ace community is overrepresenting sex repulsed people. It is not. Right now, it is overrun with sex positive, demisexual, gray sexual people. That is the majority of what I see in these groups. But that was just my mini rant out there. Sex is something that, like, when you talk about compromise in a relationship, okay, maybe one person makes the bed these days, or one person does the laundry, or one person does dishes. If a compromise can potentially set you up for trauma in a relationship, it's not a compromise at that point, it's abuse. So anyone who's sex repulsed, never, ever, ever let anyone pressure you into having sex with someone just to keep them around. If that person can't be with you without having sex with you and you're sex repulsed, then you're just not compatible. I've said this before, you're just not compatible, and it's okay. Do not force yourself to have sex with somebody that you do not want to. Now, if you enjoy it, or you feel like, you can mentally separate from it or whatever, there are some people who dissociate during sex and they find that to be okay. I don't agree, but there are some who do. It's up to you what you want to do, because you're grown. I'm hoping you're grown. If you're not grown, I'm even more concerned. Sadie, what do you want? Sadie, Morticia. Oh my God. Are y'all? Ma'am, what are y'all doing? They just got to be all over me all the time. It's crazy. Okay. But anyway, don't compromise in these relationships when it comes to sex if you are sex repulsed. And even if you're not sex repulsed, if you don't want to have sex with somebody, don't do it. That's setting yourself up for trauma. And I don't like that. But anyway, if I was petty, I could have came for that person immediately. But I'm not petty. I'm not the type of person who likes to argue in comments. I think it's stupid. Sadie's grooming Morticia and you can't see it. And I can't move the camera because it'll make Sadie move. And you know how cats are. How cute. But I also don't want to have my camera angled at my stomach, because that's I'm not comfortable with you seeing that angle of me. Anyway, so I commented under this person. I was like, hey, intimacy doesn't just mean sex. It can also just be physical closeness. Lots of aces enjoy cuddling or are very sensual, but not sexual. I know a lot of ace women have anxiety around the expectation that intimacy has to lead to sex, not the intimacy itself. So when I say this, I'm, basically just clarifying what this person means when they say aces have anxiety around intimacy. Because not every, we're reading what someone's writing. And as someone with a lot of anxiety who internalizes emotions, and I had to explain this to my coworkers and my manager recently, you can read a lot into something someone wrote versus something someone said to you directly. And that's what I feel like is part of the issue here. And I just, I want to give people grace when they're writing things. Someone else jumps in. They say they just realized that they're on the ace spectrum, okay. They talked about social conditioning, and they didn't know that there were different types of attraction. They said, I don't know what this is supposed to be mentioning to, but they were like, also some ace people like sex even if they don't experience sexual attraction. Allosexuals will have sex with people they're not attracted to. Okay, fine. Not sure where that person came from. And then the person who wrote the OP wrote in response to the first comment, I never said some aces don't have an issue with intimacy. What I said was it gives most of us anxiety in relation to trying to have a relationship with an allo specifically, which is not the same thing you are talking about, nor is it an assumption or problematic, but a very real situation for the ace community for obvious reasons. I would appreciate it if you would not try to negate or dismiss a very real and common experience. So, here's the thing of you trying to, hold on, put my phone down. You trying to fight somebody and argue with them for saying that most aces blah, 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 blah. First of all, when you do that, you kind of are also invalidating the people who are that. So when OP says like it gives most of us anxiety, I'm somebody who it gives anxiety to. When someone else comes in and says, no, that's problematic because lots of aces like sex and are willing to have sex and blah, 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 blah. If you want to argue invalidation, which, okay, that invalidates people who have anxiety about it. Or like I said before, sex repulsed people who are like, but I don't want to compromise for someone I love when it comes to this one thing. I'm willing to be poly. I'm willing to do all of that stuff. I'm not willing to have sex if I don't want to. And it's partly because, yes, I am not attracted to you, but also because of my attitude towards sex in particular. So when people get into these arguments about, oh, you're invalidating these people by saying that aces are like this or like this, you're also invalidating the aces who are actually like that. You know what I mean? So it's a lose-lose situation here. So a person comes back and says, it was the suggestion that it gives most aces anxiety. And that is the problem. If it gives you anxiety, say that, but don't try to speak for most. Aren't you also speaking for most though? Like everybody here be like speaking for everybody. Like I don't understand. Okay, Sadie's making biscuits on the Squishmallows, which I think is really cute. And then the person comes back and says, because it does, and most is correctly being used, the term inclusivity for a general issue in the community. On the same hand, I could argue who are these some people you speak of. The point is you've taken my question out of context for the aim of being belligerent. I offered a generalized question, which they did, in response to a call for questions, which I made, and you have made a fallacy of it. It's this sort of toxicity and gatekeeping that kept me in the closet for so long and why I was hesitant to be a part of this community. And then they responded to the other person about intimacy doesn't equate sex. Yeah, we said that. Yeah. And then, like I said, it was like I don't know. I'm literally sitting here like, what the fuck are we fighting over? You know what I mean? I'm just like, what's happening? So they respond to me. So I hope you excuse my rant, but I really dislike when people take what I say out of context and make a fallacy of it for no reason other than to be toxic. See, the minute I talk about intimacy, people immediately assume I'm talking about sex, despite there being nothing to indicate that. Intimacy is complicated, multifaceted, hence the generalized use of the term to fill that spectrum. The point is to take away from this is that the intimacy is very much an issue in the community, but not solely in the sense of sex. it is many things, and to state otherwise is pretty ignorant. Where you land up on the spectrum is up to you, and at no point did they indicate the designation of such. The point I am now gathering from this dialogue is there are members in the community who don't want to talk about shared or general experiences as a whole and would rather dismiss or efface because of their own insecurities. Man, with the big words. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I understand them all because I went to college, but I'm also just like, wow, you've been reading theory. And then, I was just like, I'm sorry you got upset. I was really, defending you and trying to clarify for everyone that intimacy doesn't mean sex. Your point is valid. And then I was like, very typical of this community for people to fight over whose experience gets to be claimed as the general experience. Come on, y'all. Like, I'm always in like, come on. Like, why are y'all doing this? It don't got to be like that. Yeah, they ended up messaging me privately later to talk about, I got that you were defending me and everything, which is cool. But like, I think I even pointed out to somebody in the comments, I guess I forgot to screenshot them, but one of those people who was saying like a lot of aces are comfortable with sex and they are willing to make compromise for person they love. I'm like, well, see, if I was one of those petty internet comment people, I could just easily have come for you and been like, what you mean lots of aces? You're invalidating people like me. Like, I could have easily did that. Some people make comments about like, well, all aces are different. Oh yeah, this is one I saw. They said all aces are different. The only thing that we have in common is that we don't experience sexual attraction. And I told them, I was like, actually, if I wanted to be petty, I could even argue with you and say that isn't a commonality anymore. We do not all lack sexual attraction. There are a huge number of sex positive, demisexual, gray sexual, whatever they want to call themselves, people who do experience sexual attraction. So you cannot even say that that is the commonality of all asexuals, because it ain't, as far as the way we're using the communities now. And they were like, damn, you right. But I'm just like, what was all of that about? Like, what was all of that about, really? Because it's like, I see this type of shit all the time. I talked about it in my Problem with White Liberals video. I think I may have mentioned it a bit in my first asexual discourse video, is that we be arguing over what we assume the other person is saying. Like, we don't even really be arguing with what the person is saying. Like this, like OP said intimacy, and then someone argued under the assumption that OP meant intimacy as just sex. And then their argument with OP telling them they were problematic also implied that intimacy meant just sex, forcing OP to have to defend themselves to say that intimacy doesn't mean just sex and they don't see it that way, and then be like, why the f- are y'all coming for me? And they said a lot of stuff to me too in DMs where they kind of like, let their feelings out and like talk about it. But those are private DMs, so I don't think that that's appropriate to be throwing out there. So I'll just stick to like the more public stuff. But literally, and when they were like, this is why I was so hesitant to come out and join the community, because y'all toxicity, I was like, 100%. I understand you 100%. It be getting crazy in here. There was one of the groups I was in, the admin of that group. It was an ace group, but it was like an ace like affinity group. So it's like, we're all aces, but we all like this. So picture it as like an ace Harry Potter group or whatever. We're all aces who like Harry Potter, and that's why we're in the group. At one point, the admin makes a comment that they don't want it to be like an ace Harry Potter group anymore because the ace community has become filled with a lot of drama and it's just too much to deal with. They'd rather just be in a Harry Potter group. And everybody was like, wow, aphobe, we're getting out of this group. Everybody, let's leave. Let's bully the admin and da. Like, they like bullied that person until they were like apologizing and like insulting themselves, calling themselves stupid and everything. And they were like, not enough. Appoint someone else as the admin and get out. And I'm like, it's they group. What you mean? You know what I mean? And then I'm sitting here like watching this all go down, and I'm like, what they're saying is true though. And y'all are actually illustrating the point by bullying them for that comment. And saying that the ace community is full of drama is not an aphobic comment. It's a factual statement. Now, it may have offended you. That don't make it aphobic. You know what I mean? aphobic comments are usually things along the lines of like it's just the phase, or you know, you don't really know because you haven't had sex, you're a late bloomer. Those comments are more on the aphobic side. But saying that the ace community is full of drama is not aphobic at all. Come on now, we know. Y'all just wanted to be angry because you didn't like what they said, so you threw out the phrase aphobe, which again, when you throw around the isms and the phobias, it really just takes away from the validity of that statement. Another time something went down in the comments, somebody had neo pronouns, and the person who they were arguing with did not know their neo pronouns. So in one comment alone, they used like one of the three pronouns, the he, she, or they. And the person was like, wow, transphobe, you're a transphobe. Everybody dogpile this person, they're a transphobe. Kick them out of the group. Da, 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 da. How dare you? And then everybody was like, you misgendered that person on purpose. Their pronouns are this, and they clearly said that. And I'm like, but they said it one time. Like, I literally went back to read the history because I was like, wow, they getting on this person. And they misgendered them one time. And I didn't even see before that time that they misgendered them when that person specified their pronouns. I mean, maybe it was on their profile, but who's arguing with someone in the comments and then thinking, let me click on their profile so I can check up what their pronouns are? Nobody's thinking that. Nobody's thinking that. Like, there's, you know how many people that I've been like mad at, and I'm just like, I just assume. I'm not looking for, and you know, and I'll say they, whatever, you know, but to me, I was just like, y'all really dogpiling this person. And it's like they were making an argument that I feel like we really should have engaged with, but we weren't allowed to because everybody started yelling transphobe and kicked the person out of the group. And anybody who tried to come in and say, hey, well, can we talk about what their actual argument was, though? People called them a transphobe for defending the transphobe and like dogpile them. And I was just like, this is some bullshit, y'all. Come on now. We can't do this. We cannot do this. Just because, and I've seen this recently. I'm not here to make a video about Vosh or whatever, but I saw this recently with the whole Vosh versus Cat Black versus, shouldn't even been versus, ContraPoints, you know, in the sense of like, you want to argue more with the point of what someone's saying instead of arguing with the person. When your argument becomes about the person, it becomes invalid. I do not mind, like, because there were some people who were commenting on my post saying, well, these are my questions for allos. I said, well, I'm not an allo, but I can, you know, maybe we can do something like that, or we can reach out to people. Allosexuals can very much be a part of asexual discourse. They're not excluded from asexual discourse. We just don't want them to be disrespectful. If you are an allosexual who's being respectful and you have like genuine questions about, you know, like some people say stuff like, you know, what do you do with your time if you're not thinking about sex, whatever, you know, we can engage with that and it's fine. But the second it becomes about, how dare you try to ask me, an asexual, a question about asexuals when you yourself are not asexual or whatever, or you disagree with me, you're an aphobe. I don't even give a fuck if the person's an aphobe. Honestly, I don't give a fuck if they're aphobe, homophobe, whatever. If we're going to try to have a discussion, we need to try to have a discussion. Now, if it's going to devolve into insults or the person is just going to start saying all these phobic-ism comments, then we don't need to talk because you're just here to make those comments. But we need to focus more on the actual topic. So like what makes me mad whenever someone in these communities tries to engage with something, seriously engage with something, seriously ask a question or make a statement, you know, you get all the arguments against the person themselves or what they think that person is thinking or who they think that person is. We don't know each other. We're on the internet. We're all strangers. Like, even if my face is up here, even if you knew my first name, last name, social security number, date of birth, whatever, I'm still a stranger to you. You don't know me. Even the people who've come across me in real life, they don't know me. They don't know my heart. They don't know my intentions. They don't know my feelings until I tell them. We need to argue about the point, the topic of discussion, what we came here to ask. When I say I'm asexual, ask me anything, asexuals versus asexuals edition, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Whatever you ask me is something that I'm going to want to respond to in whatever way I can. I don't give a fuck if it came off a little tart. You know what I mean? I don't care if there was a curse word in it. I don't care if you accidentally used the wrong, you can't really use wrong pronouns with me, but if you accidentally use the wrong pronoun, you know, I'm not engaging with any of that, because you can make any type of assumption. You could assume I was white. I don't fucking know, but I'm going to answer the question because I want to talk about the topic. I don't give a fuck about the way you ask the question, or if you made some sort of assumption in your thing about aces, because any assumption about the ace community at this point is right, because we don't know what the fuck we doing. So if you say most asexuals like sex, most asexuals don't like sex, most asexuals are demisexual, most asexuals are sexual posts, you know, whatever you want to say as an assumption is to somebody that's true. So it doesn't matter. I'm sick of us talking about who gets to claim the general, they use the word general and most when it comes to describing the ace experience. We should have had one definable ace experience, but we don't anymore. So why are we arguing about invalidating each other's experiences when it doesn't even matter anymore? None of our experiences matter anymore, because at the end of the day, it's going to be the loudest people in the groups who are going to get to define in these communities what being ace is. And I want to make a video in the future, not the next video. The next video will be about ace ally relationships, about all of these extra groups. Because like I've talked about demi and gray sexuality because those are the biggest, but there's a lot of extra ace identities that are being thrown on my timeline that are really annoying and make me upset. And I do want to talk about them. And yes, I will be invalidating some of them. So just for fair warning here, there's going to be some invalidation in that video, because I'm not even going to spoil it for you. I'm not even going to spoil it for you. Just know that I want to make a video about it and talk about it, because I think some of these are really ridiculous and they're annoying. But that's all I want to talk about today. Ace community, we got to do better about like talking to each other on the internet. Like, I know it's the internet, but y'all got to understand, some people are trolls. Some people wake up and choose violence. Some people literally wake up and decide that they want to fight with people in the comments. And it is very easy to claim any person you're talking to as some kind of phobe or ism. It's super easy. Any man you're talking to, you can find a way to call him misogynistic. I've seen it. You know, any woman you're talking to, you can find a way to call her transphobic or gay or homophobic or whatever. You can do that. But we got to stop giving attention to the people who come just for a fight, because our community don't need to be about that. We got enough shit to fight for. We don't need to be fighting each other. Some people come into comments and groups specifically to start fights with people, and you have to ignore them and move forward. If you give them all your energy, you are going to risk what happened to OP in this situation, where they were upset about it for probably like days, because they found my channel, they commented on my videos, they ended up reaching out to me on my personal page and everything, and like we were like talking and stuff, and I was trying to assure them, you know, not to give these people any more energy, but they were really upset, and they were right to be upset. They were very valid in their feelings to be upset that they were attacked that way, but also understanding that the people who attacked them didn't want to have an actual conversation. They wanted to argue with someone. They wanted to make assumptions about what OP's point was so that they can have someone to argue with. It had nothing to do with what they actually said, really. It had nothing to do with who they were as a person. It was everything to do with that person was looking for someone to argue with. And the ace community is a really fun place to go and argue with people, because it's a lot of trans people, a lot of autistic people, a lot of MBs, a lot of people with ADHD, there's people with trauma. There's people with medical conditions. It's a very easy place to go and rile people up by just saying random shit. So it's like, you got to keep that in your mind. Like, how do I want this person to disrupt my peace today? Now, if you feel like you got time for it, go ahead. But if you don't even address them. Like, let them look stupid in the comments and just walk away knowing that you know what you said, you know what you meant, And there are some people who are going to see it and they're not going to understand. There's some people who's going to see it and they are going to understand. And you need to be okay with that, and you need to walk away. So that's it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed me talking about this. I found it to be kind of funny. I was just like, of course we would fight about something this stupid in this community. Here we go again. But also, you know, for the people involved, I can understand that it could have been very triggering and very upsetting. And your feelings are valid. I hear you. I see you. I understand you. And I do care about, you know, some of these people who get bullied for saying, I mean, really real shit, you know what I mean? But I just wanted to get that out there. And next week, hopefully I will have new hair and a new shirt for you guys to see and like, hopefully, and a new topic where we will be discussing allosexual, asexual relationships. It's going to be some good stuff, going to be some bad stuff. You know how it is. But until then, I hope you guys are taking care of yourself. I hope you're drinking your water, taking naps, eating food, giving yourself grace because you deserve it. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.